The voice acting for the 7 remake is almost complete. You feel it, don't you? You feel the hype train building. It's definitely coming. Oh my goodness. That is great news. That is really great news. And this has given me a lot of confidence. Now, I want to do a video on this because a lot of people don't know how to feel about this. The voice acting being nearly complete. Some people are, oh, it's coming out next week. It's coming out next week. And other people, no, still 2020. 2020, maybe 2021. Maybe it'll never come out. I think the project's cancelled. So this was in an issue of Dengeki, and Kitase came out and said that the main story voice recording for the remake, and that's probably indicating the first part, the episode 1, is almost complete. Kitase says a remake of FF7 required substantial preparedness. Preparedness. Is that a word? I guess it is. Voice actors have almost finished voice recording of the main story. Fans have the image of Cloud from FF7 Advent Children, but since this is Prime Cloud, but from before Advent Children, the performance may feel fresh. I do think a lot of people were just thinking it was going to be Advent Children Cloud. Yeah, it definitely has to be a different kind of Cloud. Cloud in the game is different to Advent Children Cloud, so I like that. That's good. That's good. That shows that Kitase knows the distinction. Kitase has also touched briefly upon the key visual, the one with Sephiroth in Midgar with a wing. I'll leave the meaning of the Sephiroth that doesn't exist in the original, so the one with the black wing, to everyone's imagination. Now, I expect that kind of response, and I think some people are giving him stick for that in the comment section. At the end of the day, guys, come on, leave it to your imagination. You can't spoiler. That could be a really big surprise as to why Sephiroth in that visual has the wing. But going on to what does this mean? Is this something to be excited about? Does it mean it's going to come soon, or is it still way off? It kind of means both and neither. When we look at the voice acting process, it's never the same. It hasn't even been in different Final Fantasies, and honestly, it could mean that the game is 4 months away. Really could. We've had examples where the voice acting was only finished and then the game came out 4 months later, or it could honestly mean that it is way off. And the reason for that is the voice acting process has so many different bits to it, and it's done in so many different ways that we have no way of knowing. So for example, when Kitase says that the voice acting is done, is he talking about the Japanese? And the fact that he's speaking to Dengeki about it, perhaps, yeah, it is just the Japanese voice acting, and that's a big difference. Obviously, with all our Final Fantasy games, they were always done in Japanese first, and then they were localized, and then the English voice actors came in. So, no, the Japanese would be the first, and the English voice acting would be done quite late in the day. So that's a major point, but I just want to focus on that part there. The fact that the voice acting is done quite late in the day. That's something that people have had a struggle to get their head around. I even said it with the DLCs. So I said if they're going to do a Dark World DLC, for example, if they're doing it, why hasn't Ray Chase gone back and done any extra voice acting? Well, I said that they'd have to build it first, and the voice acting would come quite late in the day. Now, that's kind of the same. Now, can we take from this that all of the scenes have been animated? Well, the general process, and just reading through this, thanks to the person who linked this, is if the animations, if the cutscenes are lip-synced, which of course with Final Fantasy is what they're going to try to do. Sometimes they'll get there or they won't, but they're going to try to make it lip-synced. So, of course, to get the absolute best lip-syncing, the animations have to be done after the voice acting. So a lot of people have been reading this, and I've seen the comments saying, nope, this doesn't mean that the scenes have been animated. They're going to voice act first, and then they're going to do the animation around it, because they've got to animate it around the mouth. And that is true. That is usually how they do it. But despite that, it doesn't mean that the scenes aren't animated. In fact, it's quite the opposite. They do a framework and a base animation for nearly all of the scenes before they bring in the voice actors. In a lot of cases, they even voice act. There's loads of examples where the animators themselves do voice acting so that they can build a blueprint and a frame of the scene and what they want for it, what they envision it, and what the Candice and the timing for it is, and indeed what the emotion for that scene is. So in most cases, they will build pretty much the entire framework. So the fact that they've said we've done all the voice acting, from that alone, based on 99.9% of how this is done, we can say that they have got a framework for nearly every single scene of the first episode. And that is something to be super excited about. Now, it doesn't mean that the animating is over, because of course then they bring in the real voice actors. And that is what they do. They bring in the real ones and they have to deliver. And the voice actors will be told, you have this kind of time to deliver this line. This is the speed and pattern we want you to deliver it in. And they will go off and do it. And then the animators will go back in and tweak it to the mouths if need be. And then of course after that is done, that's when you've got to complete the rest of the game and the bugging and the QAing and then the shipping out. And of course that's going to be have a process there. So I would never say that the voice acting is done very late in the day, like we could get this next week, but honestly we have had cases where voice acting has been done and the game has come out in 4 months. And I'll give you a great example of that. Final Fantasy 13, and this is what I was saying, there's so many different methods to localize in a voice actor game, and Square Enix, honestly, they've changed between titles. So with FF13 for example, they say here that there was a lot of lack of deadlines, synchronization between the voices and the various departments, and there was a huge, very turbulent development with the voice acting. They also completed the voice acting for 13. So they completed it, and you can imagine we'd get an article, FF13's voice acting is completed, woo! But then they actually brought him back and they said there wasn't enough emotion in it, lacked proper emotional drive at just the right moments. So they actually brought the voice actors back and they went in again. So of course you can imagine, and there was a huge time delay difference between that. So FF13's voice acting was done, but it was still like a year off before the game came out. So we could apply that to 7 Remake. But then if we go over to a different process they used for just 2 titles later, so Lightning Returns, same trilogy, they used what is called the Moomly, a tool called Moomly, both 13.2 and Lightning Returns. And that was developed by an English translator called Tom Slattery, or Slatery. Sorry if I fucked up, Tom. I'm sorry. And these developers, the guys who created this Moomly tool, were the ones who were the translators for 13. And they learned and they created this tool so that they could learn from the experience of the first game. And it was used to make sure that all the parts of the localization process were synchronized. And because they used this tool, something like Lightning Returns at 13.2, the Japanese voice actors recorded their dialogue well after the character scenes had been created, as opposed to the normal procedure of recording lines before cutscene creation. For the English version, the amount of dialogue, translation and recording was so large that there was over a 2-month delay between the game's local and international releases. So again guys, that's another factor. Is 7 Remake going to be a worldwide release? But that doesn't detract from the point that this Moomly tool that they used meant that both the Japanese and the English voice acting was done way after cutscene creation for 13.2 and Lightning Returns. So it's not far to say that it's possible, just possible, that the Final Fantasy VII could be, all of the cutscenes could be done. All of the scenes in the remake could be completely done, and all they have to do is do some minor tweaking here and there, and the game could not be far off. Again, it could be 4 months down the line. Do I think it will be 4 months down the line? I really don't. We know for a fact that Square Enix absolutely love their hype trains, and there's just no way that their hype trains are going to be shorter than 6 months. Just no way. The Square Enix have notoriously some of the longest. I've said why I don't like that. We've had a lot of great examples like Fallout 4, I think it was, that only had about a 5-month hype train period, and fans like that. Fans really did respond well to that, because you feel hyped as fuck from the announcement to the point where the trailer to the game comes out, and you don't have to wait that long, and the hype train is just fresh. It's not that stagnant. But that's the thing guys, the hype train technically started for this back in 2015. The remake hype train has been going for years now, so I'm not even going to say that what I just said is accurate. Technically it's already started, it's just that they haven't really been pushing their typical hype train, and perhaps they're not going to do it with remake, and I'd actually quite like that. I'd like us not to have loads of trailers and a lot of drawn out build up to it. I like the game just to land and just to be hype as fuck. Maybe do an event here, a launch there, a trailer there, and boom, let's go. That'd be great. And I kind of think they're going to do that. It's not going to be like 15. Although they've said there's going to be ATRs for the remake, they actually said that the ATRs were going to be bridges in between the episodes. So something to more bridge the gaps, as opposed to something to build up to the first installment. And then even if we just look at Final Fantasy 15, which would be a great example, but again, I've tried researching, what was the voice acting process for that. There really isn't much out. They actually had this totally secret until August, I think it was. If you got, I've gone on Ray Chase's Facebook, I've gone on some of the other voice actors' Facebook, and they all announced in August. Yeah, I'm voicing Noctis, woo! So they only announced it then, and I couldn't really see any of them saying when they finished voice acting outright. I messaged Ray Chase and I've asked him. He hasn't replied back to me yet. Come on, Ray, what are you playing at, man? Write back to me. Tell me when. But I would say that looking at Ray Chase's Facebook, he did say, and that's a wrap. And he said that back in June. So that was 5 months before the game came out, or it should have technically been 3 months. He also wrote a post back in August saying that the secrecy was off and that he'd been working as a voice actor on Noctis for a few years now. So yeah, the voice actors he was working on it for years. And I'll say that the remake has been known about for about 4 years now. So really, the fact that we now know that the voice actors have done their bit for 7 Remake is not that much of a surprise. Told us in an interview, I'm going to say that my gut feels that they have got a framework for pretty much all the game. I don't think it's going to be like 32 and Lightning Returns. I think this will be a typical kind of voice acting process where they've got the voice acting done, they've got a framework, a very strong, healthy framework for all of the scenes, and it's just the Japanese voice actors that have done their bit. Perhaps the English have done it, and they're now just in the process of either one, localizing, and if it is the localizing route, then perhaps this game has still got 8 months, possibly even a year still to go for us to come out, or they've done the English and the Japanese, and now they're just tweaking scenes, and they're getting finally down to the QA part of the game, and let's just hope that they don't throw any spanners in the works. So like 13, that got delayed because the voice actors, they weren't happy and they wanted to change some things late in the day. That added on a hell of a lot of time to the development process. So again guys, there's so many wild cards, there's so many factors. We don't know what method they're using, we don't know whether it's English or Japanese voice actors they're talking about. We don't know if they're going to change their vision last minute, and we just generally don't know what process they're using. So can we get excited? I'm going to say hell yeah, I don't care, I'm just going to say hell yeah, I'm getting excited as hell. The voice acting is done, and everything that we've been seeing, if we couple this with all of the other news, is coming together, that the combat is nearly wrapped up, that they've got all the scenarios down, and it's beginning to take shape. Honestly guys, any day now. Any day we're going to get that other trailer. I feel it in my fingers, I feel it in my toes. I don't know why Nomura was not allowed to take one to the Magic 2017. But honestly, the next big event, maybe it'll be E3. Expect that 7 Remake trailer, and I honestly feel it, that when we get that remake trailer, we'll find out that there's only 6 months left to the release date. I'm really hopeful for that. That's what my gut tells me, that this could be a late 2017, perhaps, if I'm being too hopeful, maybe an early 2018 release. But let me know what you think, guys. Until the next video.
Goodbye.